Pregame.com.
Wednesday night, NBA action. We've got the Chicago Bulls at the San Antonio Spurs. This one's on ESPN. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined by Steven Nover. Steven, this is a big game in the NBA because you've got San Antonio, who has just been surprisingly playing unbelievable basketball. They're 12-1 straight up their last 13 games. 10-2-1 against the spread during that span. The one game that they lost, basically they said, you might as well say they didn't throw the game, but they rested a bunch of starters.
Well, they rested Duncan and Parker.
Yeah.
They're the two best players.
That's the team right now without Mano there. And this is a situation that, and they got drilled by 40 in that game. And they did all of this on the road. Yeah. They were on 9 games of this 12-1 run was on the road in what is, the famous, rodeo road trip for San Antonio that they have every year. I'm projecting the line at San Antonio -3. Now, we're taping on Monday. Obviously, the NBA All-Star, break was this past weekend. The Spurs will not have played since before the All-Star break, so they're going to have been off for 6 days. Chicago is playing on Tuesday night, so we don't know the outcome of that ball game, but generally Vegas shades the line a point to, a rested team versus a non-rested team. They make you pay a premium. So that's why I'm putting this line at 3. I might be on the high side here, but I think Vegas will overreact to the rest, and I think they're going to overreact a little bit to the fact that the public is going to look at this game and say, San Antonio's been on the road forever. Now they're the first game back home, and they might just overreact a little bit to them coming back home off this rodeo road trip. How do you see this game? I'll counterpunch you. This is going to be your free pick, but I've got a lot of thoughts on it, so we'll do some debating here. Go ahead.
Well, prior to their rodeo road trip, Marco, San Antonio hadn't really done well on the road. They were kind of a fade on the road, but they had the best 9-game road swing of any team in history. They went 8-1, and their only loss, as you mentioned, was this 40-point blowout loss at Portland, a very tough place to play normally. And they sat out Duncan and Parker, basically conceding the game. And that's been Greg Popovich's strategy. He's looking long-term, and he's got an aging team. But now what that has established is you have to respect San Antonio on the road. However, now they're home. I actually think the Bulls have an edge here. They're going to be playing Tuesday night coming off the All-Star break. They're playing New Orleans, and San Antonio's idle. So San Antonio will have rest, but they're also going to have rust, having not played since the All-Star break. And so I think that favors the Bulls. The Bulls are the healthier team. San Antonio is 13-1 at home. That's the second best home record next to Oklahoma City's 15-1. They're 10-4 against the spread. You have to really, respect that, and a very tough team to beat in San Antonio. However, I think the Bulls are the better team. I think health-wise they're better. San Antonio, of course, does not have Ginobili. He's out. They also don't have a couple of their big men. Splitter has a calf injury. He's out. Leonard probably isn't going to play either. So they're down people. They're counting on Duane Blair, your old Pitt guy. And
yeah, don't count too much.
Well, he had a great game, the last game, but he's never been consistent in the NBA. So I think the Bulls are the better team. They're the healthier team. So I'm going to be looking to the Bulls in this game.
Yeah, well, just to delve a little deeper on what you said about the rust factor, that game that Chicago plays, even though they play the night before, they're playing New Orleans, which should be basically a scrimmage for them. New Orleans not going to, go into Chicago and beat them, and I think that's going to just it's a great tightener for them for the Spurs on Wednesday night. And Chicago, they got Derrick Rose back now, and he came back before the All-Star break, played in the All-Star game, and so it's a situation where they're healthier than they've been in the last few weeks. And Chicago, this is a team that everybody thinks the team that's got They were there last year in the NBA Conference Finals. They battled the Bulls or the Heat, and they had the Heat on the ropes and let them off in a couple of those games. And I think Chicago is the second best team in the East. And I'm not sure how much of a gap there is between them and Miami, but Miami's playing lights out right now. The San Antonio team, I know what their record says, but if you look at who they played during that 9-game stretch, they really didn't play the elite teams of the NBA. They had 2 big games that I think the toughest 2 games they had on that road trip, and I'm not even counting the Portland game because, like you said, they conceded the Portland game. They played the Clippers in that road trip, and they played the Sixers. Those, I think, were the 2 best teams they faced during the 9-game road trip. And although both of those teams are playing well, they're both young teams that are just still learning how to win. I can't put them into that NBA elite status, yet. So I think Chicago's live here. I got to agree with you, and I can't disagree. What are your thoughts on the Bulls? Do you see them actually going in and winning this one outright?
Yeah, I think could be an under, too. Chicago, great defensive team, and San Antonio with that rust. Without Ginobili, how many points are they going to put up?
A very good point.
Now, they are more offensive this year than in past years. San Antonio better offensively, not as good as they have been defensively. But I think if you like the Bulls, perhaps that's a correlation parlay. Maybe look to the under, too.
Great point on, with the rust factor on San Antonio, and Chicago is one of the, if not the best, one of the top 3 defensive teams probably in the NBA. So I can't disagree with that. I like Chicago in a low-scoring game. Grab whatever points you can get. My numbers actually have Chicago winning by 3, so I agree with you, but this is your official free pick. You want to call a margin or just grab?
3 sounds good because we figure San Antonio will come the favorite here, so I would call it Chicago, and I'm figuring a low-scoring game, maybe Chicago 87-84.
Okay. Well, there you have it. That's Stephen Nover's free pick. I'm actually agreeing with it, so you're getting a double bubble type play, both of us on the same side. That's going to wrap up our game selections with the video so far this week. We'll be back on Wednesday. Scott Spreitzer will be in shooting some videos. I'll be in as well on Wednesday, and then Vegas Runner and Brian Leonard will be in shooting videos for the weekend on Thursday. But we're going to come back. Stephen and I are going to do one more video. Since the All-Star break was this weekend, we're going to recap the first half of the NBA season, talk about some surprises, disappointments, and what to look for in the second half if we see some sleeper teams or teams that we think are going to improve against the spread. We'll do that next with our second half NBA preview. Stay tuned.